with the description in
I
there.
think I did it.
Sweet. Okay.
Perhaps.
Awesome. So okay. Oh, nice. So now we should be live on Facebook and YouTube.
But
Boom. And then yeah, go back. And normally I click on that just like make sure it's me again. Okay. So it's
oh my gosh. One
That's us.
person. Oh.
It's literally us. Yeah, it's bad. It's so bad.
Oh. That's what it is.
Cool. And normally I try to go live on. I try to set it up with the title and everything, copy paste everything in, and then 5 minutes before go live on YouTube to make sure that we get in the signal on the Facebook side, and then you don't have to go live on Facebook, so they just wait. But normally the issues that we have is when you go live on YouTube and like you don't get the signal.
Oh. So are we live on YouTube?
Yeah, we are now, but normally I wait till like just a minute before. That's fine.
I see. Cool. Thank you for throwing this in there, Brian.
It just said 1800.
Can you tell?
It's what I use on my phone, my watch, and everything.
Yeah, that's how I use mine. 1457. It's just like it makes more sense.
Yeah. No, I still translate in that mind, to be honest. Yeah, you get Michael back for a transcript. We're all set otherwise.
I'm gonna do with this headphone right now.
Sweet.
Is there a spot I could put this?
Yeah, you'll be on this mic and sit around it right here. I'll bring this one out. You don't need this mic.
I mean, I think he said he wanted this, right?
Okay, yeah, I guess if he's the one reading these, so this will go here. That's great. And then those headphones are yours. You control the volume for your headphones right at the little dial right down there.
Okay. And if you want to move just slightly over to the left, that way we get a better view of you to the live stream. Okay. The world seeing you on Facebook.
What's that?
I was just making a joke. The world seeing you on Facebook.
Oh, right. Is the camera on? No, not recording.
Okay, please put it on. Put the light on. This is falling.
Yeah, it's weak on the one side. Okay, we're up in about 10 seconds. Okay, let's have fun. Yeah, I hear it. Welcome to the Peak News. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. You're listening to AM 1460 and FM 101.1, The Answer. So happy to have you join us here on this Tuesday, which of course means we're talking about government and politics, or politics and government, or legislation, or good governance, or statesmanship, or whatever you want to call it. It's that part of our society. We do on Mondays business and culture. Today's our government day and politics and that whole mix. We do faith and family on Wednesdays, media and education on Thursdays, and then we rinse and repeat. Why do we do that? Because here at the Peak, we say the quiet stuff out loud, and it's supposed to be, over time, story by story, episode by episode, talking about our region, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And so by having different themes, well, you can choose. Maybe there's certain things you're interested in, and then you can choose, especially, which day to listen to, or when you go on our podcast, which ones to go after. It helps you sort through it. But overall, for us, it's operational to make sure that we cover our region. Because as you know, certain shows get pigeonholed. They become political shows, or they become arts and entertainment shows, or they become, they're rarely faith and family shows. We really like Wednesdays because, how often does the news really focus in on that? And that's the core, right? Could we get more core in our society than that? And we do this as a labor of love here, and we do it as a community service to you. And not only that, we invite you to be part of it. And so citizen journalists are like, that's who we are. And so if you would like to join us, if you have stories to tell, or you want to support that in some way, you can be a citizen journalist and be a reporter, producer, or a tech. If you're a young person, we have an internship program here. It's awesome. We have James, our number one intern, running the board here, also got picked up and now works for Salem Media. That's why that's the way internships are supposed to work. But also as a guest, and of course as a sponsor. And our sponsors are all local businesses here. Nobody is bought and paid for what you're listening to. They're just part of the community that says we want to support this, and they get advertising out of it. And we would love you to go patronize them and say that you heard about them from the Peak, because that's how it's also supposed to work. We all work together in that way. And I want to give a shout out to our platinum sponsor, great friends of the show, great friends of mine, Springs Dentist and Dr. Craig Summer Holistic Dentistry in Colorado Springs. They're our family dentist. You'll hear me say that pretty much. I'm doing business with pretty much everybody that's doing business with us. And isn't that the way things are supposed to work on the local level? If you want to check us out on Facebook or YouTube and see what radio looks like, you get a little behind the scenes. It's nothing fancy. It's I call it radio on video, but we live stream every day that the technology works, and you can check us out on Facebook at the Peak News Media or on YouTube on the Peak News. Last promo before I introduce our guest for the day. 2 weeks from today, April 1st, is the last day for you to vote if you live in municipal Colorado Springs and you're a legal citizen of this country who is legally allowed to vote. I want to put that in there. Is we have our city council election. Very, very important. 6 districts. You vote in your district. And there are different voter guides out there. The Gazette has done a voter guide, and they did candidate forums, which is awesome. Church for All Nations did a candidate forum. But I'm involved in a project called Church Voter Guides. We do it like nobody else. We send surveys to the candidates, get their answers up to 120 words per question, open-ended questions. We print exactly what they put in there. Why is it Church Voter Guides? Because we're specifically nonpartisan. We are 501c3 compliant. So in the hopes that churches will bring us in, because churches tend to stay away from politics. Like, we have nothing to do with that, and we certainly do. So go to churchvoterguides.org, get informed, and vote your value. So on today's show, Government and Politics, we have Michael Scott. Scott? Scott? It's Mongolian, folks. Help me out here. Michael, pronounce your last name.
It's Michael Talk.
Scott. Okay, I'm gonna mess this up through the show. It can be a running joke. I'm sure that I'm not the first, but Michael, let's get more to what Michael does. He's a policy analyst at the Advanced Colorado Institute, as well as the head of their academy. He has expertise in the realms of education, budget and fiscal matters, and public safety. And today we're going to be talking specifically about Colorado's crime crisis, discussing how local legislation is feeding into that and impacts you. And also we'll be touching on the Colorado Springs City Council election. So Michael, can I just call you Michael?
That's perfect.
Welcome to the Peak, Michael.
Hi, and thank you for having me.
We here want to make sure that you get active. So I want you to listen in, because I know nobody likes crime. Nobody wants it to occur. But are our legislators actually doing something to stop it, or are they assisting it? Listen in on the show today and you decide for yourself. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. You're listening to The Peak on The Answer, and we'll be right back. Okay, let me try this again. Scott. No.
So what's helpful? if you say the word
Pot.
pots.
Have you thought about changing your name? No.
Well, I actually have.
Oh, it was worse than this.
Yeah.
There's some letters that nobody has heard of.
When it was naturalized.
Okay.
I changed my name.
To this? Okay,
Well,
I'm gonna bust you.
Not
I'm gonna
really.
have fun with that on the next segment. Just let me.
Yeah.
Oh shoot! I need that article to introduce Darcy. I gotta see where I put it. Hey, did I leave that here? Okay. So by the time I'm done with Darcy, we're only going to have about 3.5 to 4 minutes to cover these two things. So it's going to be pretty quick. I'll do a quick intro to try to give you as much time. So you're going to just talk about overall the importance of transparency here.
Right.
And then this we can go a little bit more into. And
Yeah.
into
And
that.
my points will be pretty short.
Okay.
So,
Well, but we can use the time.
Yeah.
Okay. We're back in 2
minutes.
2 minutes. Yes. Not 2 seconds. I would never give you that little time. I would say we're on. Oh, and if you ever, during the interviews or whatever, if you see me hold up a finger or two, that's giving you a time budget of like,
Okay.
hey, take a minute for, no, I'm not like stopping, like stop talking.
Mhm.
It's so that sometimes I'll just decide, you know what, we can do another minute on this, and I'll hold up a finger and just something in that area. And this allows us to, to have it feel more natural, the timing and stuff. I never have to interrupt you or cut you off or anything
Mhm.
if we can roll with the timing. Okay. Okay, 1 minute.
We're doing Darcy, right?
Yeah, you won't. I'll introduce you, but then I'm going to go into this story, and then when I come out, we'll do that. I'm on the air. I'll talk to you later. Welcome back to the Peak News. You're listening to AM 1460 and FM 101.1. The Answer. It's Government and Politics Day. And we have Michael Stock. Stock. I'm going to try that. Policy analyst at the Advanced Colorado Institute. And this is our headline segment. But our first headline, we have an interview that I just did a short time ago before the show. I don't know if you heard about this, but there's a dinner that was planned with Steve Bannon for the Centennial Institute as a fundraiser. They were going to do it in Denver, but there was protest because of Steve Bannon. They took it out of there. They didn't even promote that they were going to do it at the Antlers, but they had to promote it. And then people pushed back at that, and the Antlers, it seems, has caved. And so we did an interview with one of the people involved in organizing this, Director of Special Initiatives for the Colorado GOP, Darcy Schoening. Roll clip. Okay, let's stand up for free speech. Next headline segment. Some 80,000 pages of JFK files will be released Tuesday, Trump says. So today, after 65 years, 62 years, this information supposedly is going to come out. Hopefully it actually will this time. Michael, what do you think about this in the realm of transparency once everybody's dead that had anything to do with it, that we finally, can get the information?
Exactly. And the key here, I think, with President Trump releasing this, first and foremost, it's a campaign promise that was kept. But secondly, it is a continuation, I think, in the reckoning in the federal government that's happening with DOGE, specifically that with fiscally, but now with transparency. And I think that is something we could definitely use more of, especially even in the state and local level. You see all kinds of cash funds in the general budget in Colorado that you just have no idea what's happening there. And so I think this is not only a campaign promise that was kept, but this is a good thing to continue doing, especially at the state and local level. I think Trump's leading on transparency.
Yeah, I mean, to get this information out, I mean, maybe we can bring things up closer to today, like, the Epstein files, or maybe 9/11, or, anything. But, this stuff that when it comes out that anybody that might be implicated is already dead, it doesn't really, it doesn't really bring the accountability that we would want. But, as they say, better late than never. Final item, talking about that the Teller County Sheriff, Jason Mikesell, has decided to throw his hat in the ring in the 2026 Colorado gubernatorial race. Representative Scott Bottoms, friend of the show, is also running. I don't know, is there other people that have declared at this point?
I believe Senator Mark Baisley.
Okay, for the Republicans. So they're all vying for that when Polis is going to step down and the Democrats stepping in. Is it Phil Weiser from the Democratic side? Is he the only?
No, Michael Bennett is also considering. Obviously, Janet Griswold is also considering.
But they haven't declared yet.
I don't believe they have declared yet.
Okay, but the Republican one is interesting here in this area. So what's your take? We have Scott Bottoms, who's a pastor. We have Jason Mikesell, who's a sheriff, Teller County Sheriff. Looking like some good people.
Yeah, and I think the governor's race in 26 will be particularly interesting. Looking at the race in general, it's going to be hard for a conservative to win in Colorado in a statewide race. But if we, focus on the right issues, focus on public safety and crime, affordability, I do think there's a chance. You never know. It's still close to 2 years away. And so, yeah, I think it'll be very interesting. I think seeing Bennett, seeing Weiser, seeing Janet Griswold all compete for the title, it'll be very interesting.
Okay, you're listening to The Peak. We have with us as our guest and co-host for the hour, Michael Scott. Scott. Never. You know what? I give up. No, I'll keep trying. With Advance Colorado. When we come back, Michael's going to be talking about Colorado's crime crisis. I got to write it phonetically different because what I did is not helping me. So what's another way of doing this?
So most people mess up with putting the G before the O.
Well, I don't even have a G in here.
Well, yeah. So if you think of it
in the phonetic
3 ways: TS, the
right
sound,
yeah,
and then an aw sound.
AWW.
Exactly.
Okay. Aw.
And just like an OK sound. Ok. Sokt. OKT, if you will. Sokt.
Socked.
That's
Socked.
I'll take that. That is,
Socked.
Yeah.
Socked.
Mm-hmm.
Socked. Okay. I will try, my friend.
Yes.
Aw. I guess it was the aw sound. I wasn't.
Yeah.
There.
So this next session is the monologue.
This is your monologue. Okay. So I'll give you. By the time I introduce you, you'll have about 4 minutes. I'll give you 3, 2, 1, and 30 seconds.
And I can read from it.
You can read, but you're going to have to pace yourself and, try not to have it sound like you're reading because that's always not great. It's better to just, say it. But do what you need to do, but deliver it with energy. And, radio is always at a pretty good clip because you're trying to get a lot into a measured amount of time. So, but just think about what you're saying and get the content out.
Yeah.
Okie doke. That was good. That was a good headline segment. I always like when we do the interviews. I would have had Darcy live, except she was actually scheduled on someone else's program for 3 to 4. So
Yeah, she's everywhere.
in
right?
that time, well, she's working it too because she's running for
That's right.
chair. So I wrote her. I was like, this isn't going to hurt you running for but sometimes things happen during races that are just fortuitous. You get something dropped in your lap. But it is true. I mean, they're getting free publicity for the event. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, these kind of things in the end don't work.
No, they backfire. I think anytime.
I just don't know what the Antlers is thinking. How are they thinking
Yeah.
that this means anytime anybody calls in a bomb threat, you're going to just, fold up?
Yeah.
I mean, you've been around here longer than anybody. You got to stand for Colorado values and everything. I guess I'm not going to be around taking off for the next week and a half. I'd reach out to them. Maybe someone else will reach out to them. Try to
Where you
get
headed?
comment. Jamaica.
Nice. What are you going for?
My wife and I haven't had a vacation in forever, so
Okay. Well,
we're getting away.
nice. My wife and I are also heading out next week.
Okay,
going
well,
to
it's spring break.
Cancun. That's
Okay,
right.
cool.
We're doing our baby moon, so
Okay,
our son's on the way.
okay.
Yeah.
Your first
Our first.
first
yeah.
child.
Yep.
Yeah, it's good to get that in before it all. I have 6 children, but their youngest is 12 and a half, so
Mm.
finally able to break free some. But yeah, it's we've done over 200 shows here, and I'm just fried to a crisp. So I was looking at Cancun, but I know the other place. I used to go there a lot.
Oh, really?
So.
Okay.
Welcome back to the Peak News. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. You're listening to AM 1460 and FM 101.1. The Answer. It's Government and Politics Tuesday. And if you want to tune in on the Facebook, you can spend the entire time watching me try to pronounce Michael's last name. So we're going to see it's Scott. Michael Scott.
Yes.
I can't pull it off. Maybe we can get it once. James can record it in the booth and we can play it in. I'm sorry about that, Michael. I have a difficult name too, but Michael actually told me that when he got naturalized, as it's a Mongolian name, that this actually wasn't his name. His name was harder to pronounce, and he chose this one.
Something like that.
I don't know. I would have maybe advised you differently, buddy, if you were going to change your name. Smith would have been a little far. But anyway, Michael is a policy analyst and head of the Advanced Colorado Academy at the Advanced Colorado Institute, and he's focused in on crime, and that is an issue, especially in how our legislature is dealing with it. And so, in this segment, Michael's talking about Colorado's crime crisis.
Yeah, I want to talk about why Colorado is failing at keeping the public safe, and why public safety, I think, is a winning issue for conservatives in Colorado. When I first visited the state, I immediately noticed the beauty that the state has to offer, the mountain towns, the vibrant communities. Even in Colorado Springs, you have some of the biggest evangelical ministries in this entire country. But in just under a decade, maybe even less, Colorado has become one of the most dangerous places to live in America. So I want to contend today that Colorado is failing to keep the public safe because of soft on crime policies that protect not the victims of crime, but the perpetrators of crime. And so I want to talk about 3 examples from this legislative session alone that did just that. House Bill 25-1072, titled the Pretrial Release of Repeat Violent Offenders or Offenses, aims to tighten pretrial release conditions for individuals accused of violent crimes who have recent convictions or multiple pending charges for violent offenses, and have set a minimum of a $7,500 bail specifically for and banning unsecured personal recognizance bonds. This bill clearly attacks a weakness in our current system, letting violent offenders out on pinky promises, which is what personal recognizance bonds are. But that would have been too much common sense, and it was killed in committee. Senate Bill 2544, titled "Synthetic Opiates: Criminal Penalties," was dealing with fentanyl. It would have made manufacturing or distributing any amount of fentanyl a level 1 drug felony. It was also killed in committee. Of fentanyl, huge problem in our communities. And then we also have House Bill 251073 recently killed in committee. It would have required mandatory minimum sentences for sexual offenders, for child rapists, the worst of the worst in our society, and it was also killed in committee. I bring up these three bills to show up how out of touch these progressive legislators are with the rest of Colorado. In the midst of this chaotic time in our public safety, I also want to contend that it is because we live in a dangerous Colorado that public safety issues are now the road back for conservatives in this state. And while the legislature continues to shut down every bill that aims to create a safer Colorado, groups like Advance Colorado, which I work for, will continue to work hard for public safety issues all across this country, all across the state. We did that with Proposition 128 and Proposition 130 in November 2024. Both passed 128 overwhelmingly and 130 by 53% to 47%. And I think it's just indicative where most of Colorado is. Conservatives can take back Colorado, and it begins by winning on the issue of crime and public safety. Thank you.
When do you think we flipped, or what is the kind of mindset that wants to help the criminal over the victim? Like, what are we dealing with?
Yeah, I think we're dealing with people who believe fundamentally that these perpetrators of crime are themselves victims of the system, victims of society, victims of patriarchy, religion, et cetera, et cetera.
And we fix the problem by encouraging them.
Exactly.
Okay. At some point there needs to be accountability, folks. And I'm sorry that people get raised a certain way, but that doesn't mean that they should be able to hurt us. We got to work this out. Mm-hmm. We got to change hearts and minds. You're listening to The Peak, and we'll be right back. Okay, so this is just a 2-minute break. We're on segment 4, so you can look at the questions. Again, 2.5 minutes.
And this will be more of a...
This is a standard interview. This is more what everybody's used to.
How'd you think that went?
It was good.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Okay, we're back in 15. Welcome back to the Peak News. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. It is Politics and Government Tuesday, and we are talking about, legislative policies and crime in Colorado. And we have with us Michael So
That was great.
okay, I'm gonna stick
That
with
was
that one.
fantastic.
Record it. I'm not saying his name again. No, this is some things trip me up. Smith, Michael Smith. No, policy analyst and academy director for the Advanced Colorado Institute. And so, Michael, in the last segment, you were talking about policy, and people don't really understand, I think, how important policy is. But if you, because it's boring, it's not sexy, it's not sensational, it's a grind. But just look at the difference on the border between the last administration and this one. We were told for 4 years there's nothing we can do. We have to pass legislation, all this other stuff. And it was like, wait a minute, but we had this policy before. It seemed to be working, and how quickly it's come back and shut down the border. So I think everybody, has come to understand that we were being lied to, and that these things really, really make a difference. And when people that aren't even citizens of this country get priority over the citizens, we have a problem. And when people who are dangerous and seek to hurt other people in some way, through some level of crime, become more important to us than the people who are just walking down the street trying to live their life, we have a problem. And so we're going to be talking more about this crime issue in this segment. But first, Michael, how did you end up working in the political realm and choosing that? What's your background? You're an immigrant.
Yes.
Legal. I assume.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Hi, thank you again for having me today
Absolutely.
for the show. My family, we immigrated to the States when I was just 6, and grew up in the Southern California area. We took the long way route, the right way, the legal way, and eventually, 2020, I was naturalized. Wore the stars and stripes. I was very happy lad. It was about a week before the COVID lockdowns, and there was about 6,000 people in this one crowded room, and all pledging allegiance to the flag together. It was a beautiful moment, and we worked hard for that. And I even helped my parents study for the citizenship test, and I think they did fine just on their own. But yeah, I ended up working in politics. I love it. I love working in politics. I love the news. It's a little weird, but in 2016, that ages me. But when I was a junior in high school and taking my AP government class, I realized I did not know what I believed. I actually found myself agreeing with some of Hillary Clinton's positions more than President Trump's, and that when I found out I disagreed with some of my fellow family members and friends, I had to do a deep search, and I did that for about 2 years, falling in love with government politics in that process, but eventually finding out that I am a traditional conservative. I believe in the individual rights and protecting individual rights as the proper role of government, et cetera, and et cetera.
So we've been talking about crime. You consider it to be the biggest issue facing Colorado. That's a tall order based on all the issues. Why do you consider it to be our number one problem here in the state?
Yeah, I mean, you see U.S. News World Reports ranking us as the third most dangerous state in the country, and you see a number.
How can that even be? And there are just 6 million people in all this space, no real big inner city, issues, at least, here. How is that even possible?
You look at the rates of property crime, you look at the rates of auto theft, retail theft, in our legislature not addressing those issues. You look at fentanyl overdoses, you look at the legislation that have supposedly tackled fentanyl, but have made it impossible, really, to prosecute those who have fentanyl, given the knowledge clause in that law. And so you have all these issues where really it's the biggest divide, I think, that separates most Coloradans from the real far left progressives. And it's their approach to public safety, it's their approach to crime, it's their approach to those who commit crime and those who are the victims of crime. And I think Colorado is facing a public safety crisis, a crime crisis that we haven't ever really seen before.
So, how can this be turned around if we have legislators that, just as an example, if people are paying attention, and moving on to the Second Amendment side, which is certainly part of this,
Right.
because if you're not allowing the average citizen to arm themselves against criminals who, by the way, you can't legislate against crime. Like you can't, because criminals don't follow laws. That's why
Right.
there need to be punishments and accountability. It's the law-abiding citizens who follow the laws that you come up with. But if we look at what just happened with this, gun ban, basically banning everything that's moving on, hopefully will not be signed by the governor. There were, it was like 1,000 to 1 in the testimony, and it was still passed. When you have a legislature that seems to be more ideological than representative, how do you approach turning it around and bringing things back to we the people, short of armed revolution, which is, I guess, one of the reasons to disarm us,
Yeah.
is to prevent an armed revolution.
Exactly. And we have to run better campaigns. We have to win local elections. We have to take back our county commissioner seats, our city council seats. We have to take back our school boards, and that also trickles up really to your House district, your Senate districts. Overturning or getting rid of that House supermajority, flipping Rebecca Kelty's House district
By
16
3 votes.
By 3 votes is a great step in that direction. We're nowhere near flipping that ideological gap that we have right now, especially with crime. But that's the way to go. It's to focus on crime as an issue. And even you see when the legislature does not step up, you see increasingly more citizen-initiated ballot measures taking place, passing, and bringing better public safety to Colorado.
But is it just because I would think that most people, I mean, when you talk about that, school boards and county commissioners, I mean, here in El Paso County, it is solidly conservative, not so much city council. But, if people have this mindset of that victims, that the real victims here are the criminals, that's a PR campaign that has to start well before the elections, because what ends up happening is so many conservatives, and we're going to see in this Colorado Springs City Council election how many people are just so burned out that they don't even go vote. What can be done, and who's going to do it? Because even here in Colorado on this abortion, this to me was the talisman on everything. When the conservatives and the Christians, the religious people, did not get organized to not have constitutional abortion in the state, I'm just like, nobody's going to do anything. If they can't get together over life, which shouldn't be a religious issue or anything, it's just life. How do we, you're a political person. How do we do this when you have so many factions? Who's going to put up the money? Who's going to have a long game on this? I mean, is that even realistic to think about?
And I think it is. I think Colorado it is not beyond saving.
And by the way, I just want to, because I'm not a Republican or a Democrat. I'm a small government conservative. I'm a libertarian, so I'm not representing the parties. I just think obviously my logic is the best. Back to Michael.
Yeah, I think the best people on the conservatives on specifically on the ideological right in Colorado are those who are thinking of the long game. Are those who understand that 2, 4, 6 years from now, it's not going to be pretty. It's going to be a football game. You're going to have the first quarter, you have the second, you have halftime. It's going to be a long game, and if you prepare well for it, if you win on the arguments specifically on public safety, which is such a sharp ideological divide, you can win eventually.
Well, so we got a couple minutes left. Tell me about Advanced Colorado, the Advanced Colorado Institute, the academy that you run. What is your ethos? What are you about? What are you trying to accomplish?
Sure. I'm a policy analyst at Advanced Colorado Institute. I research and write reports for our organization. We're a conservative think tank in Colorado. I also run the academy, and that's what we have called the New Leader Program. We also have an ambassador program. We have a school board program for those who've won. And really, it's a way to just it's 5 weeks, the New Leader Program. It's that you apply, and if you get in, there's no cost to you. It's all remotely done and doctored, so that we can give all Coloradans across the state whether you're just wanting to get involved politically, whether you want to run for your school board, or whether you want to run for a special district board, or even a county commissioner's seat, or even run for Senate. You can get involved. You can get some training. You can sharpen up your political skills. And I think we want to offer that for Coloradans across the state.
So how do people get involved with you?
Yeah, you can look up our website, advancedcolorado.org. We're focused on a lot of issues right now. We also run a lot of ballot measures that we take up on behalf of the citizens, alongside every single citizen signature that the legislature won't take up.
And so, what type of people are you looking for to reach out to you? I mean, do you take can people donate to the organization?
Oh, people can donate.
It's a nonprofit.
It's a nonprofit. People can donate. You have tax deductible.
All right, so 501c3,
right.
And but what type of people can really be helped best by what you do?
Yeah, if you're upset, not happy with the situation in Colorado, and you want to get involved, you want to get off the sidelines, you can begin by going to our website, applying to the academy, and starting there. I think there are so many parents, so many even young men and women who are looking for ways to get involved, and I think this is a great way to do that.
Okay, we're talking about policy. I know it's not sexy, but it runs everything. What's going on behind it. Everything else is just romanticized. When we come back, we're going to be talking about hyperlocal, the Colorado Springs City Council elections going on now with April 1st as your last day to vote. You're listening to The Peak. We'll be right back. Okay, there's 3 minutes. So what do we want to talk about here? Yes, the rant.
Is 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Okay.
Talking about how politics need to change.
Okay, well, that's pretty relevant. Okay, thank you, Jim. So you're going to talk about, like, if I say what are the issues people should be paying attention to?
Yeah, I think that's what I would talk about, and then you can talk about.
Okay, and then I'll pick up
in your
because
voter
we
guide.
probably asked those questions in the voter guide.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, since I don't have a hard copy, let me pull up my handy dandy mobile friendly version here.
That was a good segment.
Yeah, I think so. It all becomes a blur to me, but come on, load up here. Load up. Why is it playing? I don't think these commercials are playing in the right. Okay, back in 40. You're listening to the Peak News on AM 1460 and FM 101.1 The Answer across the Pikes Peak region. It's Government and Politics Tuesday, and we have Michael Scott. Scott. Oh, my goodness. Michael. Michael,
Yes.
TSOGT. You try to pronounce it at home. Don't injure yourself. Policy analyst and academy director for the Advanced Colorado Institute. And we're talking about the Colorado Springs City Council election. So this is how things work here in Colorado Springs, if you didn't know. We have 9 city council people. Every 2 years, we have an election on 1 2-year set. We elect by district. You vote within your district, 1 vote. And then we have at-large candidates on the 2 years later. That's run at the same time as the mayoral election, and they run citywide. And you get to vote in that one for those 3 seats, and people run for those 3 seats. So we're in the district election now. If you live in municipal Colorado Springs, you should have your ballot by now. You should have had it a week ago. You have 2 more weeks to get it in. April 1st, 7 p.m. is your last chance to drop your ballot off and vote in the election. City council people, they are our legislative body here. Everything else is done through our strong mayor, and they also, which is quite strange, they are the board of the utilities, which is a multi-billion-dollar organization here that runs all the utilities for us, and they are over that, which is sort of a strange thing. So I put out a voter guide called Church Voter Guides at churchvoterguides.org. We have the 18 active candidates, a couple dropped out. We have 15 of them in the guide, so really, really good. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that so that you can get informed and vote your values, as we like to say. But Michael, as a policy person and someone who lives here, what are the things that you think that the voters, the electorate here, regardless of their political persuasions — by the way, it's a nonpartisan officially election, no political parties involved officially, but what do you think the people of the Springs should be looking into? Crime, obviously, being one of them, but what else?
Yeah, I think, number one, it's public safety and crime. You have, sanctuary city laws that affect, we're only an hour away from Denver. And so crime all across Colorado is going to affect El Paso County, is going to affect Colorado Springs. I think that should be top of mind for voters when they make their decisions. I think homelessness is part of that as well, dealing with the homelessness issues, housing first or treatment first approaches, kind of those distinctions in candidates. I think affordability is another issue in Colorado Springs that is affecting a lot of young people specifically with housing, with rent, with mortgages. I think city council members, those running for city council offices, should also maybe get involved in construction defects litigation bill that is going through the legislative session right now. I think, and it doesn't have to be them necessarily, but that's what voters should be concerned about. That's what voters should be concerned about for the future of Colorado Springs.
And also they're now tasked, now that Proposition 300 passed, with how this recreational marijuana is going to be implemented here, as well as the psilocybin mushrooms to a point, because the way that can do, and they can even potentially do sanctuary city regarding abortion, is by licensing, and the way that they license and the way that they do things here. So it's a very important position. They make $500 a month before taxes. It's not a glorious position, but thank you to all the candidates who are running. And I want to let you know that, again, 15 of the 18 active candidates are in our voter guide. There are other resources you can look for. Get educated. Don't check out of the election. Conservatives tend to not vote because they don't feel they can, because they're not educated enough. People on the liberal side tend to just vote party lines or ideologically, but in order to get educated, we put out this guide for everybody called Church Voter Guides, because it's nonpartisan and can go into the churches, 501c3 compliant. Go to churchvoterguides.org, mobile-friendly version, downloadable PDF, printable. Get informed, read about your district, and vote. Michael Scott.
Close.
Okay. He shoots, he maybe scores. Thanks so much for being on the Peak.
Thank you for having me.
Really appreciate it. Of Advanced Colorado, their website, advancedcolorado.org. And now, Jim Miller, just the guy in the Peak rants, and, he's on topic. Politics need to change. You know Jim?
What's that?
Ever meet Jim?
I have not.
Jim, he ran for mayor a couple of years ago, and I saw him and said, I want to bring him on the radio. So he's a regular on end of every show, and now he decided to run for city council. So he's doing that, and he's just
Mm-hmm.
he's just a guy,
Just a guy.
just a
apparently.
working guy that's fed up, and so he's a good guy. So we just let him loose. Okay. So we have a few minutes of this, and then I have the commercial. I have the close, and then we're done.
Perfect.
Cool.
Yeah.
So you live here in the
I do.
live here in the
Yeah.
Springs, but is this up? You go up to Denver for this a lot, or
Yeah.
the offices are up there?
Yeah. Yeah, I've been here in Springs for the last 5 years,
Mhm.
so a lot of good stuff. Ministry brought me out here initially,
Okay.
but then, I wanted to finish my degree, and I was getting in political science, ministry, and humanities, but just transferred to UCCS and then finished with poli sci
Okay.
as
Cool.
fast as I could and got involved right away.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. I'm strategic, but I'm not. I'm journalistic. I just like to report on the stuff and
Mm-hmm.
let people figure stuff out. I don't want to
Definitely.
get the divisiveness here is it's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
People are just, and it's hard to report on because you don't know what to think. Everybody's got a story, and everybody's why are you talking to that person, and don't you know they're this and that. It's like, look, they're getting something done in our community. That's good enough for me.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a counter story, you want to do something else.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's the other thing too. People don't like what we're doing. Say, look, just come in. You can tell stories, on topics that you care about. You just have to do it
Mm-hmm.
fairly and do it journalistically. And so, if you know people that are, want to work in this realm, we're
Mm-hmm.
more the merrier here. And I'm going to be teaching in D11
Are you?
in the spring, journalistic ethics and media vocational training, and doing internships.
Okay.
For public school and also homeschoolers,
Yeah.
and offer it out there. So we're trying to teach people how to be ethical journalists, not activists, because there's very little real journalistic training out there to solve the problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
So-
That's cool.
Well, thank you for joining us for the peak. I don't know. Well, you know what? I didn't host yesterday's show, so that's why I didn't mention it. We've completed a year. We started in January 15th of 2024, but we took a couple months off during the summer to regroup. So we've actually completed. We've done over 200 shows, and we've completed that year. And they say it takes about a year to establish yourself in radio, and we're starting to see that. And so we're moving into the peak 2.0, and I, as been the host who basically hosted pretty much all the shows, I'm burned out. So I'm letting you know I'm going on vacation, and I'm going to take a break for a little while, and I'm going to turn it over to really We the People, which is what this was always supposed to be, never the Chaim Goldman Show. And so for the next week or so, you're going to be hearing a lot of different hosts that I feel have talent. Some are going to be better than others, but I believe that they should, be given a shot on the show. But tomorrow's show, we pre-recorded it, which we rarely do because I wanted to be here for this because John Miller, co-founder and operations manager for Crossfire Ministries, they tackle the issue of food insecurity in our region and helping working families to overcome it. And I love their ministry. We've volunteered for their ministry. We've benefited from their ministry, I'll be honest. And so we have John on tomorrow for Faith and Family Wednesday. On Media and Education Thursday, we have James Fiddler, our #1 intern, moves out of the booth and guest host, and he's going to be interviewing local actor Quentin Blanche on how to break into acting in the Pikes Peak region. That's sort of like a culture thing, but we'll allow it for media because, acting is media on a way. So, pray for me as I get some rest and hopefully come back not fried and refreshed to go into 2.0, where we got a lot of great things going on here at the Peak. And thank you so much for being a listener. Please let other people know that here at the Peak, unlike pretty much everywhere else, we say the quiet stuff out loud, and we're here to serve you, not special interests. Stay tuned for the Larry Elder Show coming up next here on The Answer, and check out our 200 plus podcasts on our website, thepeak.news. The Peak, we say the quiet stuff out loud for such a time as this. Thank you so much for supporting us through our first year. The best is yet to come. Shalom. Okay.
Fantastic.
I am done. Well, I'm not exactly done, but I'm ready to be done. I was fried about 2 years ago. I've been running.